A reggae legend once made a shocking prophecy that came true. Years later, he exposed a massive fraud live on stage, causing a riot. The secret behind his shocking confrontation is the real story they never wanted you to hear. Stay to the end to find out why this scandal changed reggae forever. Long before the world would know him as Bunny Wailer, he learned that faith was not proven by how loudly one spoke it, but by how little one bent when it cost everything to stand straight. In those early Kingston years, when music was survival and belief was dangerous, he absorbed a single truth that would never loosen its grip. He holds the idea that Rastafari was a sacred path, not a performance. That belief hardened as the years passed, not into bitterness, but into an uncompromising clarity. While the streets of Kingston bred bravado, Bunny Wailer carried restraint like armor. He was never the loudest in the room, never the one chasing attention, yet his presence imposed order. Even as the music industry learned how to polish rebellion and sell righteousness, he refused to let his faith become an accessory. As reggae spread beyond Jamaica and Rastafari imagery traveled farther than its teachings, Bunny Wailer watched carefully. He watched how dreadlocks became costumes, how chants became hooks, how sacred language became branding. The deeper the faith was diluted, the more resolute he became. He did not rush to confront. He waited. He believed time exposed truth better than argument. And when he finally spoke, it was never accidental, never impulsive, and never empty. This discipline had already been tested decades earlier, when respect itself was challenged in a way Bunny Wailer could not ignore. In 1970, when producer Leslie Kong released an album titled The Best of the Wailers without consent, Bunny did not see it as a simple industry betrayal. To him, the title itself was a declaration that the journey was finished, that the fire had burned out, that the story was being sealed by someone who had no spiritual authority to do so. He understood names carried power, and that misuse invited consequence. His response was not theatrical, but it was chilling. He warned that if Leslie Kong believed that was truly the best they had to offer, then Kong would not live to see its release. Whether coincidence or prophecy, Kong died suddenly the following year, never witnessing the album's impact. From that moment forward, the industry understood something essential. Bunny Wailer did not bluff. That same seriousness followed him into later years, when the global music world began flirting openly with Rastafari aesthetics. When American rapper Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr. arrived in Jamaica decades later and rebranded himself as Snoop Lion, presenting a reggae album and adopting Rastafarian language, many welcomed the attention. Bunny Wailer did not. To him, the transformation felt staged, abrupt, and hollow. He dismissed it publicly, labeling it what he believed it was: a performance without submission, an image without sacrifice. Rastafari, in his view, could not be adopted like a genre experiment. It required surrender, humility, and time. Anything less was disrespect. Yet the most confrontation did not involve a foreign artist testing Jamaican spirituality. It came from within reggae itself, and that was why it cut so deeply. When Bunny Wailer questioned the authenticity of Clifton George Bailey III, known to the world as Capleton, it sent shockwaves through reggae culture. This was not a minor figure being dismissed. Capleton was already revered as one of the most spiritually intense voices of his generation, a man whose lyrics burned with apocalyptic fire and uncompromising righteousness. To many, he embodied modern Rastafari militancy. To Bunny Wailer, there were unanswered questions. Capleton's journey had not begun in robes and chants. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, he emerged from the raw edge of dancehall culture, aligned with artists like Desmond Ballantyne, known as Ninjaman. His early catalog was aggressive, controversial, and unapologetically slack by Rastafarian standards. Songs like Bumbo Red and No Lotion Man dominated sound systems while offending moral sensibilities. The same voice that would later condemn corruption and spiritual decay once thrived in lyrical chaos. These contradictions never escaped Bunny Wailer's notice. Transformation did come, and it came suddenly. In 1993, Capleton's close friend, Norman Whittingham, known as Panhead, was unalived. The loss shattered him. It forced a reckoning that altered his trajectory entirely. He embraced Rastafari fully, aligning himself with the Bobo Shanti order, one of the strictest and most disciplined mansions within the faith. The dreadlocks were no longer style. They became covenant. His music shifted dramatically, becoming infused with prophecy, judgment, and purification. Albums like Good so marked a rebirth that many fans interpreted as genuine redemption. By the late 1990s, Capleton stood at the forefront of what was widely described as a Rastafari renaissance in reggae music. Alongside artists like Mark Anthony Meary, known as Buju Banton, Patrick Anthony Brown, known as Luciano, Miguel Orlando Collins, known as Sizzla, and Keith Blair, known as Anthony B, he helped usher conscious reggae back into prominence. His performances were volcanic, his lyrics merciless toward hypocrisy, his presence commanding. To younger audiences, he was the embodiment of Rastafari fire. But Bunny Wailer was not moved by intensity alone. He measured faith by consistency, not volume. He remembered the earlier years, the lyrical choices, the alliances, the commercial success built on slackness. To him, the question was not whether Capleton sounded righteous now, but whether righteousness had truly taken root. And when he chose to confront the issue, he did so in a manner only Bunny Wailer could. At the Kings in Action concert in Montego Bay in March 2000, the stage became a tribunal. Capleton headlined the event, sharing the bill with other reggae heavyweights. The crowd was already charged when Bunny Wailer appeared in the early morning hours. As the sun began to rise, he delivered a performance that felt less like entertainment and more like judgment. Between songs, he spoke plainly, referencing Capleton's past lyrics and warning against using Rastafari as camouflage for ambition. He reminded the audience that the faith was not a trend, not a ladder, and not a marketing tool. There was no shouting match. Capleton did not respond from the stage. He did not issue rebuttals or denials. He stood in silence. To some, the silence was humiliation. To others, it was respect. Bunny Wailer had spoken, and within Rastafari tradition, elders were not shouted down. The moment divided fans sharply. Some felt Bunny had gone too far, publicly shaming a man who had already demonstrated growth. Others believed the challenge was necessary, a warning to all who confused performance with conviction. What followed was not immediate reconciliation, nor was it continued hostility. Instead, time resumed its role as judge. Capleton continued forward without compromise. He did not soften his message, dilute his imagery, or retreat into popularity. Albums like Still Blazin', Praises the King, and Rise Them Up reinforce his commitment. His music remained confrontational, spiritually grounded, and politically aware. Years passed, and the consistency did not waver. Slowly, the narrative shifted. Bunny Wailer observed without commentary. He saw that Capleton did not abandon the path when trends changed or when commercial pressure increased. He saw that the fire did not cool. Eventually, stages were shared again. The tension dissolved not through apology, but through endurance. Mutual respect replaced suspicion, forged quietly through years of unbroken discipline. When Bunny Wailer passed in 2021, at the age of 73, the reggae world reflected differently on his legacy. Some remembered him as stern, unforgiving, even harsh. Others understood him as a necessary guardian, a man who refused to allow Rastafari to become hollow. He had watched too many artists borrow the language of faith while abandoning its burden. His confrontations were never personal, they were doctrinal. He did not protect individuals, he protected principles. Capleton, once challenged so publicly, stood as living evidence that endurance could answer accusation better than argument. He had not been destroyed by the scrutiny. Instead, he had been refined by it. The fire that once threatened to consume him became the proof of his sincerity. Tell me if you believe Bunny Wailer was right to make that public confrontation. Share your verdict in the comments. Follow for more uncensored stories of faith and betrayal in music history.